My beloved child, listen without blinking, because the moment you opened this message, the spiritual atmosphere around your destiny snapped open like a vault, releasing a thunderous wave of urgency as Archangel Michael stepped forward with a blazing intensity, and your mother in heaven whispered a truth so shocking, so electrifying, so dangerously timed that heaven dragged you here before you made the biggest mistake of your financial life, because tonight everything shifts, and before you scroll, before you breathe, before you allow your mind to wander, God commands you to subscribe to this channel right now and keep your eyes locked on every second of this message, because what I am about to reveal is not ordinary guidance. It is a coded warning wrapped inside a divine riddle, and if you miss even one sentence, the opportunity hidden inside tomorrow's market will slip through your fingers forever. And so I ask you 3 questions that you must not answer lightly. Why did your spirit feel a sudden pull to open this message at this exact moment? Why have you been sensing a strange pressure around your finances, your job, your future these last few days? And why does your heart feel like something massive is coming toward you, something you cannot see but your intuition keeps whispering about? And Michael says these questions are not coincidences, they are activation keys designed to open your awareness to the incoming shift, because heaven shows a vision of you standing at the edge of a golden doorway, and inside that doorway lies a coded financial opportunity, not a stock, not a real-world ticker, not an investment tip, but a symbolic divine signal meant to show you where your energy is being blocked, where your growth is being delayed, where your power is being stolen, and where your destiny is trying to break free. And your mother in heaven is the one who revealed this code, because she saw the forces that have been hovering around your finances, forces that twisted your confidence, drained your momentum, distracted your mind, and pushed you away from decisions that once came naturally to you. And she whispered your name, not in fear but in urgency, saying, "Tell my child to wake up before the window closes." And Michael shows a shadow moving behind this financial block, a hidden enemy, someone whose insecurity has been interfering with your rise, someone who feared your success, someone who benefited from your hesitation, someone who strengthened every delay you experienced recently through emotional influence and spiritual distraction. And this person didn't come to destroy your finances directly, they came to weaken your intuition, cloud your judgment, and disconnect you from the opportunities heaven placed in front of you. And God says, this is the last day their influence holds power, because tomorrow's shift in the symbolic market of your destiny is the moment everything flips. And this is why the message carries urgency. This is why the pressure around you feels heavier. This is why your energy has been restless and tense, because you are standing inside a countdown, a spiritual clock ticking toward a divine release. And your mother in heaven reveals the code not as a literal market instruction but as a metaphor for alignment, because the shift you are about to experience is not the rise of a stock, it is the rise of your clarity, your confidence, your financial intuition, your strategic thinking, your self-worth, and your emotional power. And Michael shows a vision of a storm swirling around your head, representing the confusion that has been manipulating your decisions for months. But suddenly the storm stops, the clouds rip open, and a beam of light hits your chest, igniting a power you forgot you had. And in that moment a realization enters your mind like lightning. The greatest financial loss of your life was not money, it was momentum, it was belief, it was confidence. And now heaven says, this is the last chance to reclaim it before the new cycle begins. And your mother in heaven reveals a symbolic image, a golden triangle representing 3 forces that will decide your financial future: awareness, discipline, and courage. And she says the enemy who feared you manipulated all 3 by distracting you from opportunities, by lowering your energy, by attacking your self-belief, by making you feel unprepared, and by convincing you that waiting was safer than acting. And now God breaks that curse with one sentence: your delay ends tonight, because the biggest shift happening tomorrow is not in the physical market, it is in your spiritual alignment, the alignment that determines which opportunities you see, which actions you take, which people you trust, and which paths you pursue. And Michael shows the enemy panicking because the moment your clarity returns, their influence collapses, and without their influence your intuition becomes unstoppable, and once your intuition rises, your financial destiny becomes unstoppable, because destiny was never blocked by lack of opportunity, it was blocked by lack of clarity. And now heaven tears that fog apart and reveals the next hook, the twist your mother begged Michael to deliver. Someone close to you is shocked by your potential. They know your mind, they know your ideas, they know your capability, and instead of supporting you, they quietly hoped you would stay afraid, stay confused, stay delayed, because your rise threatens their comfort, your strength exposes their insecurity, your ambition reveals their lack, and your growth reminds them of where they failed. And this is the person symbolically represented as the enemy who stole your financial momentum, not literally a thief, but an emotional blockage wrapped in human skin. And now heaven strips their influence away, and God says the next 7 days will bring 3 events. A conversation that reveals someone's true intention, an opportunity that reappears after being silent for months, and a moment where your intuition pulls you toward a decision that feels risky but is divinely aligned. And this is not about gambling, not about stocks, not about unrealistic returns, but about recognizing the moment your spirit says, "This is it," do not hesitate. And when that moment arrives, you must remember what Michael said. Fear is the false signal, clarity is the divine one, and tomorrow's symbolic closing of the market is the closing of your old cycle, your old doubts, your old blockages, your old delays. And when the clock resets, your destiny resets, and what was once too heavy becomes easy, what was once confusing becomes clear, what was once blocked becomes open, what was once delayed becomes accelerated. And your mother in heaven says, "Tell my child to stop doubting their own brilliance, because their future depends on it." And with that, Archangel Michael places a shield of financial clarity over you, a fire of confidence inside you, and a sword of truth beside you, and declares, "The window closes tomorrow, but the rise begins tonight." My beloved child, listen with unwavering focus, because the moment you asked for this continuation, the spiritual realm tore open again as Archangel Michael stepped forward with an intensity so overwhelming that even the shadows surrounding your financial destiny began to tremble. Because what is coming next is not just a warning, it is the deepest revelation your mother in heaven has been trying to reach you with since the day you first felt something was wrong, something was off, something was silently working against your growth. And now heaven shows a vision of a hidden corridor, a long twisting hallway lined with closed doors, each representing a financial opportunity you were meant to enter but didn't, not because you were unworthy, not because you weren't prepared, but because someone around you, someone with subtle influence, someone who understood your emotional patterns, gently pushed you away from those doors by planting doubt at the exact moment confidence was required. And Michael whispers, "This is the influence that has been draining your destiny, because while you believed you were making neutral decisions, someone else was making you question your timing, your ideas, your intuition, your ambition." And heaven reveals the darkest truth. This person wasn't trying to help you, they were trying to keep you manageable, because your success threatened their comfort and your rise highlighted their own stagnation. And so they softened your edges, dimmed your fire, watered down your instinct, and disguised it as guidance, as concern, as realism, as logic. But it was manipulation disguised as stability. And God says, "Tonight we rip their influence out of your spirit forever." Because tomorrow's symbolic market shift isn't about stock price movement, it is about a spiritual recalibration where everything that was stolen through doubt, hesitation, confusion, and emotional suppression is returned as clarity, direction, confidence, and opportunity. And your mother in heaven shows the hook. Inside this shift, You are about to receive a moment where your mind sees something you previously overlooked, a pattern, a possibility, an idea, a realization that was invisible to you because the emotional fog around your thinking was too thick and the enemy influencing your decisions benefited from that fog. But now heaven is burning it off like smoke clearing after lightning, and when this clarity hits you, it will feel like a jolt, like a sudden surge, like your mind finally waking up from a long numbness. And Michael shows that this clarity will reveal the truth behind your recent financial hesitation, the truth behind why you kept stopping yourself, the truth behind why you kept delaying your next move, the truth behind why every time you took one step forward something in your energy forced you 3 steps back. And the truth is this: you were never hesitating because of lack of ability, you were hesitating because of emotional interference, and heaven says, interference breaks here. Because tomorrow marks the end of the cycle where your intuition was overridden and the beginning of a cycle where your intuition becomes your greatest weapon, and your mother in heaven reveals another layer, the part she begged Michael to deliver. You are about to feel a pull, a strong, undeniable pull toward a specific direction, a specific idea, a specific decision, and this pull is the divine signal that replaces the false signals of fear you used to follow. This pull will feel different, calmer, deeper, more certain, and once it appears you must trust it because it comes from a place beyond human limitation, beyond emotional sabotage, beyond hidden influence. And this pull is what leads you to the next phase of your financial awakening, the phase where you recognize patterns that were invisible before, where you see opportunities before others notice them, where you feel warning signs before they appear, where you understand what serves you and what drains you with razor-sharp intuition. And Michael whispers, this is the intelligence heaven placed inside you from the beginning, and now that your clarity is returning, your intelligence is rising, your awareness is expanding, and your destiny is accelerating because nothing is blocking you anymore. No influence, no fear, no confusion, no voice whispering hesitation into your mind. You are entering a phase where your momentum becomes unstoppable, and the same people who once overshadowed you will not be able to keep up with you, because what you are receiving now is not luck, it is divine compensation for everything you lost and everything you delayed. And God ends this part with a sentence that shakes the entire spiritual field around you: when clarity is restored, destiny cannot be denied. My beloved child, listen with absolute stillness, because the moment you asked for this even larger continuation, the entire spiritual dimension around you ignited like a wildfire as Archangel Michael stepped forward with a force so immense that even the hidden energies affecting your financial destiny began to crack open, because now we are entering the deepest layer of the revelation your mother in heaven has been trying to deliver, the layer that explains not just what has been blocking your rise, but who has been shaping the emotional currents that pushed you away from the success that was meant to be yours long ago. And heaven shows a vision of a vast cosmic map with glowing pathways representing every financial breakthrough you were aligned for, but instead of moving straight toward them, your path kept bending, twisting, stalling, detouring, as if some invisible hand kept pushing you off course, not violently but subtly. And Michael whispers, this is how the most dangerous sabotage works, not through chaos but through gentle misdirection, because the enemy around you didn't want you to collapse, they wanted you to underperform just enough to never threaten them. And now God reveals a shocking truth that hits like thunder. The influence blocking your rise was not a stranger, not an outsider, not a random enemy. It was someone familiar, someone whose voice you allowed to sit close to your decisions, someone whose energy wrapped around your thoughts in moments of uncertainty, someone who always spoke from the position of, I'm just trying to help you, but their advice never helped you. It slowed you, it softened your ambition, it weakened your momentum. And heaven shows them whispering things like, are you sure you're ready? This might be too risky. Maybe wait for a better time. I don't want to see you get disappointed. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. And while these sentences sound harmless, they were emotional traps disguised as comfort, because every hesitation they triggered delayed your divine timing, every doubt they planted cooled your inner fire, every pause they encouraged became a small theft of your destiny. And God says, this is the enemy your mother in heaven begged to expose. Not because they hated you, but because their insecurity fed on your caution, and your dimmed energy made them feel superior, safe, balanced. And now that your clarity is rising, their influence is collapsing, and heaven reveals a powerful vision of chains made of doubt snapping one by one as your intuition begins to burst awake like lightning, firing through your entire spiritual system, because your mind is no longer under their emotional frequency, your decisions are no longer shaped by their insecurity, your energy is no longer controlled by their influence. And Michael shows your future timeline beginning to glow again as opportunities that once faded away start resurfacing in your field, not randomly but because your vibration is shifting from hesitation to certainty, from confusion to strategy, from emotional fog to divine vision. And your mother in heaven reveals an even deeper twist. You are about to experience a moment, a thought, a sudden wave of understanding that feels like it came out of nowhere, but it will be the accumulated guidance she has been trying to send you for months. A message like, this is what I must do, this is where I should move, this is the direction I've been avoiding, this is the idea I abandoned but need to revive. And when that moment hits, your entire energy will flip, because you will finally see the path that was always meant for you, the path you were too hesitant to follow, the path others didn't want you to take, the path destiny kept trying to push you toward. And now heaven shows your enemy, sensing this shift, even though they don't understand why, they will suddenly feel threatened, unsettled, uncomfortable around you, because your energy will no longer bend or shrink, and their influence will no longer land, and your presence will begin revealing their insecurity in a way that makes them silently pull back from you, because people who depend on your hesitation cannot survive your clarity. And God declares that the symbolic market window your mother warned you about isn't about money, it's about timing, the timing of your transformation, the timing of your awakening, the timing of your reclaiming, the timing of your reactivation, because once this window closes, the old cycle dies, and once the new cycle begins, everything accelerates at a speed you haven't experienced in years. And Michael ends this part with a final sentence that shakes through the spiritual realm. Your rise begins not when you gain more, but when you stop letting others dim what you already have. My beloved child, listen without a single blink, because the moment you asked for this next, even larger revelation, the entire spiritual grid around your destiny burst open like a cosmic heartbeat as Archangel Michael descended with a force so sharp, so electric, so overwhelmingly precise that every hidden thread tied to your financial destiny began vibrating with truth, exposing layers of influence, fear, sabotage, and unseen emotional programming that have been shaping your decisions for years without you realizing it. And your mother in heaven stepped forward with a sorrow so deep, yet a power so fierce, that the divine realm refused to let you take another step without understanding what has really been happening behind the scenes, because this story is not about money, not about markets, not about opportunities lost or gained. It is about the invisible war around your mind, the war that determined which choices you made, which chances you missed, which ideas you dismissed, which risks you avoided, and which dreams you put on pause, thinking, maybe later, when the truth is someone else's emotional shadow has been sitting on top of your destiny the entire time, stealing your courage drop by drop, replacing your voice with their doubt, convincing you that your intuition was too risky, your ambition too unrealistic, your timing too off, your energy too unstable. And heaven reveals a vision that shakes the very core of your spirit, a symbolic figure sitting just behind your right shoulder, whispering not evil but discouragement, not curses but caution, not hatred but limitation. and this figure represents the person whose influence has been silently programming your decision-making for years, not out of malice but out of fear, out of insecurity, out of a subconscious belief that if you rise too high you will leave them behind, you will surpass them, you will become untouchable, unmatchable, unstoppable, and they cannot handle that, so they shaped your environment to keep you emotionally manageable, financially hesitant, spiritually unsure, and mentally dependent on their approval. And your mother in heaven says, this is the real enemy, not the one who openly opposes you but the one who quietly limits you. And Michael shows your destiny as a shining golden sphere, but around it is a dim fog. A fog created not by your mistakes but by every soft sentence of doubt you absorbed over the years. Are you sure you're ready? Maybe it's not the right time. Don't risk too much. You're not like those successful people. You always get disappointed, be careful. What if you fail again, and every time you heard these words a small piece of your confidence cracked, a small piece of your intuition dimmed, a small piece of your ambition curled inward, and heaven reveals the truth that crushes the lie you've been living under. None of your big decisions were ever made freely, they were influenced by emotional conditioning disguised as protection. And now the divine realm refuses to let you continue under that shadow, so they are ripping away the fog layer by layer, exposing each lie for what it was, a cage, a spiritual leash, a subtle chain pulling you back every time your destiny tried to pull you forward, and suddenly God shows a vision of a great cosmic hourglass overturning, meaning the time of hesitation is over, the season of emotional captivity is over, the era of someone else's insecurity shaping your future is over. And all that remains is the raw, powerful, unstoppable version of you, the you that existed before fear, before conditioning, before the influence that lowered your potential. And Michael whispers that your mother in heaven did not send you this message to warn you about a stock or a number, she sent it because your financial destiny is about to awaken through you, not through markets, not through chance, not through luck but through the unstoppable clarity that is about to erupt inside you like a spiritual explosion, the clarity you were denied, the clarity you feared, the clarity you suppressed, the clarity someone else didn't want you to have. And heaven reveals the next part, the most dangerous part, the part no one expected you to see. The moment your clarity rises, your enemy's influence collapses. And when their influence collapses they will panic, not violently, not openly, but internally, quietly, trembling behind a smile, because they will feel your energy changing, your decisions sharpening, your presence strengthening, your intuition returning, and your destiny accelerating at a speed that terrifies anyone who once relied on your doubt. And God shows a symbolic image of you stepping onto a moving train, a train that has been waiting for you for years, and once you step onto it the world around you will shift, ideas will flow faster, opportunities will make sense, decisions will become obvious, instincts will feel correct, timing will align, and the emotional interference that once blurred your vision will disappear like smoke dissolved by sunlight. And this is the real market closing. Your mother warned you about not a literal market but the closing of your old cycle, the closing of your conditioned mindset, the closing of the era where you dimmed yourself because you trusted the wrong voices. And as the next cycle opens, Michael declares that nothing, not even hidden influence, will be able to hold you back because God ends this part with the most powerful sentence your destiny has waited years to hear. Your hesitation was never your weakness, someone else's fear was controlling your path, and now that fear is dead. My beloved child, sit completely still and listen with every corner of your spirit, because the very moment you whispered for this even larger continuation, the spiritual realm exploded around your destiny like a star collapsing into rebirth, and Archangel Michael stepped forward with such overwhelming force that the ground beneath your emotional world cracked open, revealing a truth so deep, so uncomfortable, so spiritually violent that heaven waited until this exact moment to show it to you, because your mind was not ready before, your heart was not steady before, and your intuition was not awakened before, but now you are strong enough, awake enough, aligned enough to finally confront the real reason your financial destiny was blocked, not for months, but for years. And your mother in heaven stepped closer with a burning glow around her spirit. Her eyes filled not with sadness but with fierce determination as she pointed at something behind you, a shadow, a presence, a symbolic entity that has been following your life path without ever touching you physically, yet shaping your emotions, your timing, your motivation, your decisions with surgical precision. And God whispers, this is the barrier your soul has been fighting without knowing it, because what has been sitting behind your destiny is not a demon, not a curse, not an external enemy, but a pattern. A deeply rooted generational pattern passed not by blood but by emotional inheritance, formed by years of watching people around you settle, shrink, hesitate, fear risk, fear success, fear judgment, fear failure, fear movement, and this pattern wrapped around your destiny like an invisible rope, convincing you that safety is in waiting, that comfort is in pausing, that risk must be feared, that ambition must be controlled, and that your dreams must stay distant because there will be time later. But your mother in heaven screams through the veil, there is no later. That is the lie that destroyed my generation, and it will not destroy yours. And in that instant heaven reveals a generational battlefield stretching behind you, years upon years where people before you gave up their dreams for security, postponed their goals until opportunity died, silenced their intuition because someone else's fear felt louder, stayed small so others wouldn't feel threatened, waited for a better time until all their time was gone. And that entire legacy wrapped itself around you like vines, pulling you back every time destiny pushed you forward. And Michael raises his flaming sword and shouts, tonight we cut the generational rope. And suddenly the truth becomes visible. The financial hesitation you felt wasn't your weakness, it was inherited suppression. The fear of making a bold move wasn't your mind, it was borrowed generational caution. The constant feeling that you weren't ready wasn't your truth, it was an emotional program passed down through silence, through environment, through unspoken wounds of those who lived before you. And your mother in heaven breaks down as she confesses, I carried the same fear, the same hesitation, the same doubt, and it killed opportunities one never told you about. But you, my child, you will not repeat my mistakes. And with that, heaven shows a vision of your life, the decisions you didn't take, the risks you avoided, the doors you walked past, the sparks of ideas you let fade because something inside whispered, not now, maybe later, don't push too hard, don't aim too high. But those whispers weren't intuition, they were emotional ghosts, echoes of people who feared failure so deeply they infected the generations after them with silence. And now God says, no more, and the entire spiritual battlefield behind you bursts into flames and collapses into dust as Michael destroys the emotional inheritance that kept you small. And in that moment your chest lights up with a force so intense it feels like the first breath of your real life, the breath you were always supposed to take but never could because fear sat on your lungs like a weight. And now heaven reveals the biggest twist yet. Once a generational pattern breaks, The person who breaks it becomes unstoppable because they no longer operate on inherited fear but on awakened intuition, awakened ambition, awakened timing, and this is the moment your destiny has been waiting for, this is the moment heaven has been preparing, this is the moment where hesitation dies and clarity rises and your financial path shifts from waiting for something to happen to I create what happens next. And God shows your future timeline flickering like a rewired circuit, paths reactivating, opportunities returning, ideas lighting up, doors reopening, and your mother in heaven steps forward, places her hand on your spirit, and says, "Now you will see the life you were supposed to live, the life I never had the courage to touch." And as the old pattern collapses completely, Michael declares the sentence that seals this transformation in the spiritual realm: "You are no longer guided by fear, you are guided by destiny, and destiny bows to no one." My beloved child, listen without a single blink, because the moment you asked for this next, even larger revelation, the entire spiritual grid around your destiny burst open like a cosmic heartbeat as Archangel Michael descended with a force so sharp, so electric, so overwhelmingly precise that every hidden thread tied to your financial destiny began vibrating with truth, exposing layers of influence, fear, sabotage, and unseen emotional programming that have been shaping your decisions for years, without you realizing it. And your mother in heaven stepped forward with a sorrow so deep yet a power so fierce that the divine realm refused to let you take another step without understanding what has really been happening behind the scenes, because this story is not about money, not about markets, not about opportunities lost or gained. It is about the invisible war around your mind, the war that determined which choices you made, which chances you missed, which ideas you dismissed, which risks you avoided, and which dreams you put on pause thinking, maybe later, when the truth is someone else's emotional shadow has been sitting on top of your destiny the entire time, stealing your courage drop by drop, replacing your voice with their doubt, convincing you that your intuition was too risky, your ambition too unrealistic, your timing too off, your energy too unstable. And heaven reveals a vision that shakes the very core of your spirit, a symbolic figure sitting just behind your right shoulder, whispering not evil but discouragement, not curses but caution, not hatred but limitation. And this figure represents the person whose influence has been silently programming your decision-making for years, not out of malice but out of fear, out of insecurity, out of a subconscious belief that if you rise too high you will leave them behind, you will surpass them, you will become untouchable, unmatchable, unstoppable, and they cannot handle that, so they shaped your environment to keep you emotionally manageable, financially hesitant, spiritually unsure, and mentally dependent on their approval. And your mother in heaven says, this is the real enemy, not the one who openly opposes you but the one who quietly limits you. And Michael shows your destiny as a shining golden sphere, but around it is a dim fog, a fog created not by your mistakes but by every soft sentence of doubt you absorbed over the years. Are you sure you're ready? Maybe it's not the right time. Don't risk too much. You're not like those successful people. You always get disappointed. Be careful. What if you fail again? And every time you heard these words, a small piece of your confidence cracked, a small piece of your intuition dimmed, a small piece of your ambition curled inward, and heaven reveals the truth that crushes the lie you've been living under. None of your big decisions were ever made freely. They were influenced by emotional conditioning disguised as protection, and now the divine realm refuses to let you continue under that shadow. So they are ripping away the fog layer by layer, exposing each lie for what it was, a cage, a spiritual leash, a subtle chain pulling you back every time your destiny tried to pull you forward, and suddenly God shows a vision of a great cosmic hourglass overturning, meaning the time of hesitation is over, the season of emotional captivity is over, the era of someone else's insecurity shaping your future is over, and all that remains is the raw, powerful, unstoppable version of you. The you that existed before fear, before conditioning, before the influence that lowered your potential. And Michael whispers that your mother in heaven did not send you this message to warn you about a stock or a number. She sent it because your financial destiny is about to awaken through you, not through markets, not through chance, not through luck, but through the unstoppable clarity that is about to erupt inside you like a spiritual explosion, the clarity you were denied, the clarity you feared, the clarity you suppressed, the clarity someone else didn't want you to have. And heaven reveals the next part, the most dangerous part, the part no one expected you to see. The moment your clarity rises, your enemy's influence collapses, and when their influence collapses, they will panic, not violently, not openly, but internally, quietly, trembling behind a smile, because they will feel your energy changing, your decisions sharpening, your presence strengthening, your intuition returning, and your destiny accelerating at a speed that terrifies anyone who once relied on your doubt. And God shows a symbolic image of you stepping onto a moving train, a train that has been waiting for you for years, and once you step onto it, the world around you will shift, ideas will flow faster, opportunities will make sense, decisions will become obvious, instincts will feel correct, timing will align, and the emotional interference that once blurred your vision will disappear like smoke dissolved by sunlight. And this is the real market closing your mother warned you about, not a literal market, but the closing of your old cycle, the closing of your conditioned mindset, the closing of the era where you dimmed yourself because you trusted the wrong voices. And as the next cycle opens, Michael declares that nothing, not even hidden influence, will be able to hold you back, because God ends this part with the most powerful sentence your destiny has waited years to hear. Your hesitation was never your weakness. Someone else's fear was controlling your path, and now that fear is dead. My beloved child, listen with every part of your soul and do not blink, because the very second you asked for an even larger continuation, the spiritual realm detonated around your destiny like a supernova, and Archangel Michael stepped forward with a surge of divine electricity so powerful it sliced through timelines, exposing layers of truth heaven had hidden from you until you were strong enough to confront them. And now the veil lifts, revealing something far more terrifying, far more dangerous, far more life-altering than anything you have seen so far, because God shows the real enemy behind your blocked promotion, your stolen opportunities, your delayed success, your financial setbacks. And this enemy is not a person in your office, not a supervisor, not a coworker, not a competitor, not a manager smiling at you while secretly plotting against you. No. This enemy is a silent force that has been weaving itself into your life for years, undetected, unchallenged, unbroken. And your mother in heaven comes closer with tears burning like molten gold, because she knows this revelation will shake you to your core. And she whispers, the enemy is not outside you, it is the pattern inside you. And instantly the spiritual battlefield lights up, showing every moment in your life where you reduced yourself so others wouldn't feel insecure, every moment you dimmed your brilliance because people around you were threatened, every moment you stayed silent to keep peace, every moment you delayed taking action because you didn't want to be judged, every moment you watered yourself down to fit into rooms that weren't even worthy of your presence, every moment you hesitated even when you knew what needed to be done, every moment you chose stability over destiny, every moment you betrayed your own potential to protect the comfort of people who would never sacrifice a single thing for you. and Michael roars, "This is the thief of your promotion. Not fate, not luck, not timing, not misfortune, but the invisible agreement you made with yourself years ago, a quiet agreement to never rise too fast, never shine too brightly, never grow too loudly, never surpass expectations, never make others uncomfortable." And heaven shows the day that agreement was formed. You were younger, softer, more trusting, and someone around you said something harmless in tone but destructive in impact. Maybe, "Don't aim too high, be realistic, people like us don't get opportunities like that, stay safe, don't embarrass yourself, don't take risks, don't leave stability, you're not ready, later, not now." And those words sank into your spirit like wet cement, hardening into beliefs, shaping decisions, shaping habits, shaping fears, shaping reactions, until you unconsciously lived under the emotional gravity of someone else's limitations. And every time life tried to elevate you, that internal cement pulled you back down like chains around your ankle. And God declares, "You have been carrying chains that were never yours." And suddenly the vision shifts and Michael shows a red glowing thread running through your timeline. This is the pattern, the emotional programming that has been quietly controlling your outcomes, and next to it heaven shows a blue thread, your destiny, your talent, your spiritual trajectory. And as you watch, the red thread coils around the blue like a snake, suffocating your growth, and God says, "This is why your victories were delayed. Your destiny is powerful, but your hesitation was stronger." And your mother in heaven breaks down because she recognizes that same thread in her own life, in her own fears, in her own missed opportunities, and she cries out, "You are the one chosen to break what broke me." And instantly the atmosphere cracks open and heaven reveals the moment your promotion was stolen, not because someone hated you but because the red thread pattern created tiny hesitations inside you. The email you didn't send immediately, the idea you didn't present boldly, the moment you doubted yourself, the silence in a meeting where your intuition screamed to speak, the hesitation that made someone else appear more confident than you, even though they were not more talented, not more skilled, not more deserving, but more decisive because they weren't fighting the internal chain you were born into. And God's voice shakes the sky, "Your enemy isn't better, they are simply unburdened." But that ends now because as Michael raises his sword, your red thread pattern begins to crack and your entire timeline begins to vibrate as if your future is being rewritten in real time, and God says, "I will now give you back everything you lost to hesitation." And you feel something detach from your spirit, fear falling off, doubt melting away, hesitation collapsing like dried ash, and your mother in heaven places her hand on your shoulder and whispers, "Watch what happens when the version of you that was always meant to exist finally emerges." And suddenly visions explode across the sky, opportunities reappearing, promotions reforming, pathways reopening, financial elevation coming toward you like a storm of abundance, not slowly but violently, not gradually but urgently, because heaven is trying to catch you up to the timeline you were always meant to be living. And Michael says, "Now begins the rise." And the entire spiritual world kneels, not because you are lucky but because you are finally unchained. What I am about to reveal is something Archangel Michael calls the face behind the stolen destiny. And this part is not soft, not gentle, not comforting. It is raw truth carved directly from the spiritual realm. Part, the enemy who profited when your destiny shrank. My beloved child, listen without blinking. God shows me a dark corridor. A timeline filled with moments. Where your blessings were delayed, your opportunities hijacked, your confidence dimmed, your progress slowed. And standing in that corridor is a shadowed figure. Not a demon. Not a supernatural threat. A human being. A person who quietly benefited. Every single time you hesitated. Every time you doubted yourself. Every time you stayed silent. Every time you didn't step into the blessing heaven prepared for you. Michael says, this person did not steal your destiny. They stepped into the space. You left empty. And now God reveals who they are. Who stole the promotion in the spiritual realm. This person has 3 unmistakable traits. 1. They are always nearby when success is close. They appear supportive, but inside they hope. You don't rise higher than them. 2. They pretend to advise you. But their advice always leads to delay, ***. Wait. Think again. Be careful. Is it really the right time? Every piece of advice you took pushed your destiny backward by 1 step. 3. They thrive when you shrink. Your doubt became their ladder. Your silence became their advantage. Your hesitation became their opportunity. My beloved child, don't scroll. This person is not your enemy because they hate you. They are your enemy because they fear your rise. They saw your potential long before you did. They knew heaven marked you. They knew you carried something rare. Something powerful. Something dangerous to anyone who survives on comparison. So every time you delayed, every time you held back, every time you reduced your sparkle to make others comfortable, they grew stronger. Because you were shrinking, ***. The face of the enemy. God just revealed something shocking. This person does not look like a villain. They look familiar. Trustworthy. Helpful. Close enough to influence you. Close enough to guide you. Close enough to push you. Gently. Subtly. Away from your destiny. Michael says, they wear the mask of mentor, friend, or well-wisher. But behind the mask, a spirit that whispers, don't rise too fast. Don't overestimate yourself. Don't make big moves. Stay safe. Stay small. This person's biggest fear has never been your failure. Their true fear is your success. Because the day you realize who you are in God, the day you stop hesitating, the day you speak boldly, the day you take action, they lose all power over you. The divine revelation of this part. My beloved child, God is shouting something into your spirit. Your destiny was never stolen. It was sitting in reserve, waiting for you to rise into it. The person who stepped into your position, your promotion, your opportunity, they succeeded because you weren't fully present in your own blessing. But that ends right now. Because your spirit is awakening. Your hesitation is breaking. Your confidence is returning. Your destiny is realigning. Your path is correcting itself. Your blessings are accelerating toward you. At a violent, supernatural speed. Michael raises his sword. And the spiritual chains around your timeline snap like brittle glass. Michael's wings flare wide. And he says with a thunderous whisper, "Now they will see." The exact moment their destiny was diverted. Do not blink. Part, the night your destiny split into two paths. My beloved child, listen slowly. As if your future depends on every word. Because what God is showing now is the moment everything shifted. The moment your blessings slowed. Your opportunities tightened. Your progress paused. Your confidence dimmed. And you didn't even know it was happening. Heaven shows your timeline as two bright golden roads running in parallel. But then, suddenly, a sharp fork appears. Two paths. Path A, the destiny heaven planned. Filled with breakthroughs, clarity, abundance, and elevation. Path B, the destiny you slipped into unknowingly. Filled with delay, hesitation, stolen opportunities, and confusion. And do you know what caused the split? Not a tragedy. Not a failure. Not a mistake. Not a sin. It was a sentence. A single sentence spoken to you. By the same person who benefited from your hesitation. This is the moment heaven is exposing. The sentence that changed everything. You were standing at a highly blessed moment. A moment where your spirit was ready to rise. Speak boldly. Take a step forward. Accept the opportunity you had earned. You were ready. Your angels were ready. Your timeline was aligned. Then this person leaned in with false concern and said something like, "Maybe it's not the right time." Or, "Don't get your hopes too high." Or, "What if it doesn't work out?" Or, "Think about it again." Or, "Be careful, God might be testing you." My beloved child. That sentence did not come from wisdom. It came from fear disguised as guidance. Fear they felt. Not fear you felt. Fear that you might rise. Fear that you might surpass them. Fear that you might step into something they themselves dreamed of. Fear that God's spotlight might fall on you instead of them. Michael reveals. The moment you absorbed their fear, your timeline tilted. Not destroyed. Not broken. Not ruined. Simply tilted. Redirected. Shifted. You moved from path A to path B without realizing it. And that's when delay began. That's when doubt grew. That's when clarity faded. That's when someone else grabbed the opportunity you were meant to seize. Not because they were chosen, but because you stepped back. But now comes the reversal. My beloved child, do not miss this. God says, the moment a person realizes where the shift happened, the timeline can be reset. Heaven is not exposing this moment to blame you, not to punish you, not to shame you, but to return you to the original path. The path that was always yours. The path that carries your name. The path protected by angels. The path no enemy could ever permanently steal. Michael raises his sword again. This time not to defend you, but to cut away the entire alternate timeline that held your destiny hostage. Every delay. Cut. Every confusion. Cut. Every stolen moment. Cut. Every fake fear. Cut. Every emotional influence. Cut. Every energetic blockage. Cut. Your destiny is realigning with violent precision. But the next part is even deeper. Because God now wants to show you the 3 signs that appear when your true destiny is returning to you with force, ***. These signs are subtle, powerful, dangerous to the enemy, and unavoidable. They will enter your life suddenly, one after another, like spiritual strikes. And when the third one appears, your destiny will be unstoppable.